ChatGPT. I'm about 99% sure you know what it is, and that has been the talk of the town for about 2 to 3 months now. But what is the best way to use ChatGPT? To help you out, we're going to do a little ChatGPT experiment. We're trying to answer one important question. Can ChatGPT write a complete newsletter from start to finish? We're talking about the newsletter content, the subject line, and even the image. We're using Midjourney for that. But that's only half of it. How does a completely ChatGPT written newsletter compare against a human written one? To find out, we're going to send out this AI newsletter to our real subscribers and see how it performs. That's right, a real live experiment using real human subjects. We're talking the real stuff here. Every month, the Omnisend marketing team sends out what I'd consider the absolute best marketing and email marketing content for e-commerce businesses. If you want to power up your email marketing game so you can sell more stuff online, this is the newsletter you need to be reading. So, if you haven't subscribed yet, this is a sign from above for you to get on that right now. It's okay, go, we'll wait. Done? Good. So, what do I want you to learn here today? First, there are a lot of ways to use ChatGPT. But if you want to get real value from ChatGPT, then you'll need to use it in a deeper, more considerate way. Not just asking ChatGPT to write something like a newsletter for you. No, you need to build up audience profiles. You need to explore its capabilities, ask it questions, let it lead the information gathering and processing and creation. If you're going to do ChatGPT prompting, you need to understand that you're a ChatGPT facilitator. You're facilitating the content creation, not doing a Q&A input-output thing. This is a conversation, a collaboration, a partnership with your AI. So, how are we going to do this experiment? First, we use our old newsletter as both an example for ChatGPT to create our new newsletter, and we'll also use the results from the previous newsletter as a benchmark so we can compare it. Secondly, we're going to create the newsletter inside ChatGPT. I'll go through it with you step by step so you can see how it's done. This includes not just the good stuff and the fancy output, but also the messes and the mistakes, and of course, how to get around those mistakes. And lastly, we'll send it out to compare results. Then I will offer you some tips on how you can use it for your own stuff. So let's get to the first part. All right, so today we are going to do an experiment, and this is going to be completely live, at least live at the time of this recording, which means something bad might happen, but it's okay. This is life, it's messy. So what we're going to try to do is try to copy this example of a newsletter that we're sending from Omnisend's blog. You know, at the moment, we're currently experimenting with a text-heavy newsletter just because we're trying to communicate information, not to sell a product, right? So information, maybe it's a bit better with text. So this is the example, and we're going to create a complete 100% AI-written newsletter, and then we're going to compare the results. So first things first, we want to get started. So there are a few ways to do this, but I think the best way to do it with ChatGPT is to provide it with all the background context it needs to know in order to create a newsletter. For example, if you just ask it to create a newsletter, it'll do something. Mostly it'll be horrible. It'll be completely generic and bland, and I don't think it will provide any good information to the readers. It won't be engaging, and our test will fail. So what we're going to do first of all is we're going to ask ChatGPT how we should proceed with creating this newsletter. So I'm going to enter that kind of text here just to let it know what my goals are, and then I'm going to ask it how we should proceed next. So it will lead this. Okay, so I'm typing this in here. As you can see, I copied it in, and let's go. So as you can see now, it's giving me some steps, right? So introduction, article selection, and the summary. All right, so step number 5, it's telling us that we can work together on design, but that's not really something that we want to do. So here I'm just asking ChatGPT, how can we work together in order for us to build this newsletter? All right, so ChatGPT gave me some options, all right? So like I said, number 5, we don't have to worry about. But first, I want to kind of clarify with ChatGPT what my audience is so that later on, it can assess whether the newsletter that it is writing is going to fit my audience, okay? So let's quickly write that in there. I will type in the background on my audience, okay? We'll quickly do that. And I'm going to ask it what type of writing style would work best in my newsletter for this audience that I've just defined. Okay, let's see what it says. All right, so number one thing is that we should be writing in a concise and straightforward style. This is because our main core audience is going to be solopreneurs and email marketers who don't have a lot of time to waste, right? So they just want to get the information as quickly as possible and hopefully an entertaining way. All right, so next, we're going to look at article selection. So I'm going to ask it how I should do that. So about step 2 above, which is article selection, what's the best way to proceed? How should I feed you the articles? Let's see what it says. So here is where you have to be pretty careful with ChatGPT. It's saying that I can provide it with titles or links to articles. It looks like it's connected to the internet. It isn't. So you shouldn't add any links to ChatGPT and ask it for information about the links that you entered. It does this thing called hallucination, where it provides you very confidently with an answer based on a link, but it's all crap. You should not depend on ChatGPT for anything that's connected to the internet. Okay? All right. So that's good. So I will actually go with the second one. It says, alternatively, you can provide me with a brief summary of each article and its key takeaways. So that's what I'm going to do. Let's go ahead and stop it here. I get the point. All right. So I'm going to feed it 3 of our recent articles. 3 of our recent articles are about AI. One is about ChatGPT prompts for email marketing. Another one is about AI for product images. And the last one is AI for just images in general for your e-commerce marketing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed it the title, the introduction to the article, and then the conclusion of that article. And hopefully it will get a good idea what the article is about. So I could just feed it the titles and hope that it will deduce the content of the article. However, this newsletter is going to go out to our actual real readers, and I do not want to provide them with any bad information, misinformation actually. I don't want to lie to them. I want to give the AI the most complete information about the content of the article without asking it to read the whole article or adding a link to it. Like I said, it cannot actually visit any live websites. So I'm going to just say that I'm going to prepare it. So instead of just dumping the whole article, I'm going to tell it that I'm going to give it information. First, the title of the article. Secondly, the intro of the article. And lastly, the conclusion of the article. And then when it's ready, I will feed it the articles. So let's see what it says. Okay, great. I'm ready to receive the article from you. Please provide title, intro, and conclusion. All right, so here we go. On a separate document, I already kind of included the title, introduction, and conclusion of the article. And you will see how I formatted it here, the same way that I told to ChatGPT. So here I'm putting the sections in these brackets. So bracket title here with the title, bracket intro. Here I'm adding all the introduction and bracket conclusion. And there's the conclusion of the article. And then I will just feed it to it and see what it says. Okay, thanks for providing information based on the title. This article is a great fit for your audience because they want to improve the email marketing campaigns. Okay, blah, blah, blah. It's going in there nicely. But this is a very important part. You want to ask ChatGPT to summarize the information, and you want to ask it for specific information about what you just fed it, because again, this thing called hallucination happens all the time. It will sound like it's giving you the correct information later on, but it will actually be giving you a lot of BS. So it's always good to fact check it every prompt or every second prompt. So here I will just say, please give me the title of the article I just fed you. And the title is right there. It's Best ChatGPT Email Marketing Prompts and E-commerce Examples. It should be able to remember that, but it's taking quite a while. Okay, great. You got the article right. And then I'm going to ask it for a quick summary. Please summarize the article. Please summarize the article in 1 to 2 sentences. And let's see what it says. Yeah, okay. So improve email marketing campaigns with ChatGPT, including open rates, subject lines, all that kind of stuff. Okay, great. So now what we wanted to do is we have a few options. We can continue to feed it all 3 articles. But what I found is that when you do that, it begins to go off course. And then when you try to finally create the newsletter based on the 3 articles that you just fed it, it'll give you a bunch of BS again. Hallucination keeps on coming back. So now is actually the best time to start creating this this newsletter text. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to create the newsletter based on the first article and introduction, feed it the second article, create another add on to that newsletter with 2 articles and the introduction, and then feed it the third article, and then add on that with the introduction and the 3 articles, and then we will have our completed newsletter, more or less. So now I will ask it to begin writing. So I say, now that we know the audience, now that we know the newsletter audience and the first article, let's start writing the introduction only to the newsletter. And then I'm going to ask it, how should we proceed? Because it will know better how to do it than me. Okay, so it's rehashing the fact that my audience is e-commerce owners and email marketers. All right. So it's giving me, okay. It's giving me an example of the newsletter. So this is what ChatGPT does. It talks too much. ChatGPT tends to write a lot, and it understands that we want to be concise, but it also adds a little bit too much information for my liking. So as you can see in the example of our previous newsletter, we get straight to the business. Our introductions are pretty short, and then we get straight to the business with the content. So I'm going to ask it to mimic our previous newsletter. All right, so I have copied in our previous newsletter, this introduction, and I'm going to ask it to create an introduction for this newsletter based on the style and like the writing style, the brevity of the previous newsletter. Okay, so here you can see I fed it. So I said this is introduction for previous newsletter we sent out. Here is the complete introduction. And then I'm going to say, please write an introduction based on the style of this previous newsletter. Okay, and there we go. It's beginning to write it. As you can see now, the paragraphs are much shorter. It's a bit more straight to the point. It's copying a bit the same style as this previous newsletter with some numbers, except here it's doing the hallucination again. So here it's saying that at Omnisend we're collecting 1,000 subscribers a month. I don't know where it got that information from, but it's just trying to do its best. Okay, so we say, okay, that's great. For now, let's add another article that we want to include to the newsletter. It's great. Let's add all 3 articles to the introduction that we already have. And then this is what we have so far, and I'm copying in this thing. I will use quotations, and let's see if it can give me something nice. Okay, so it's coming straight to the point. First article is right, second article is right, and third article is right. I don't want it to summarize any of the articles into the introduction, but that's kind of what it's doing. I think now is probably a good point to fix the introduction because it's looking very thick. Okay, so again, that's great. However, please don't summarize all 3 articles in the introduction. Instead, create a catchy, general, but engaging introduction in the first 2 paragraphs. And add the titles in bullet point form as a table of contents at the end of the introduction. So it's a bit specific. Let's see if it can catch my drift. All right, good. Generic introduction in the first 2 paragraphs. Nice, nice, nice. Bulletproof bullet points, perfect. All right, so we got a good introduction. Now, we need to get this body ready. So, good thing is that it remembers the 3 titles. That means it already kind of is keeping that information in its whatever processing system, memory thing. So now we will be able to a bit more easily create the body of the newsletter. So now I'm going to give it a bit specific instructions about the format and the outline of this newsletter, okay? So here is what I want it to look like. So I want the newsletter to have an introduction. We just wrote that. An engaging summary of Article 1 plus the CTA, engaging summary of Article 2 plus CTA, engaging summary of Article 3 plus CTA, and a very quick conclusion and goodbye. How should we proceed? Again, I'm asking ChatGPT to tell me how to continue. Okay, so now it's beginning by drafting a summary of each article. Okay, it's a bit long, but okay, let it do what it needs to do, because we need it to remember the content, the exact information for each article. So that way we can build the final newsletter a bit better and a bit more factually. All right, so what we got here is title and a big chunk of summary. It's okay, but it's not the best. It doesn't look very pleasing visually. Usually people like to read something that's a bit shorter paragraphs, lots of bullet points, lots of H2. So let's try to format that in the same way. All right, so it's okay. Now let's ask it to write the body of the article. And I'm going to include the introduction that it already provided us. Okay, so again, great. Let's write the body of the article. Here's the introduction that we have so far. So we don't need to rewrite that. Please just attach, let's just say, please just write the body of the article after the conclusion, after this, introduction. Okay, and again, I will put the introduction in quotations and delete this part. Okay, so now it's already skipping the introduction and going straight into the text, the body of the article. All right. This is okay, but it's giving me 3 paragraphs of summary for each article, which is a bit long. Okay, so what we want is to get it down to an H2 for each article, and then 1 sentence probably, and just bullet points, okay? So once it's done with this, we will ask it to do it just like that. All right, good. Not too bad. All right, that's nice. Not even great. Can you rewrite the body of the newsletter using H2s for each article and 1 to 2 sentence summary and bullet points as necessary for each article? Let's see what it comes up with. Okay, so as you can see, the H2 is there. Okay, still very wordy, but it's much better. Now it's about half the amount of text. Actually, it's not so bad. In the newsletter, it'll look okay. All right. So we now have about 85% of the newsletter. So what we want is to have a completely 100% AI written newsletter that we're going to send out to our audience. All right. So this one is fine, but this should be the time when you can start playing with its voice and tone to make it sound a bit friendlier. Now I'm going to add in a little voice and tone guy. And if you follow me on LinkedIn, you will see that I've done this before, maybe 2 months ago, where I played with voice and tone guide to make ChatGPT sound less like ChatGPT and more like a human being. So one way to do that is to say, of course, here, I love it, but can you rewrite this newsletter based on the following voice and tone guide? And then the voice and tone guide is completely within brackets. Okay, good. Now that I got the H2s ready, and bullet points, okay, good. The titles are fine. All right, so here we got something. Okay, so here we got the body of the newsletter and a good summary of each one. The titles are correct, and earlier we have the introduction. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go on this new doc, and I'm just going to copy over everything that we got. Okay, and so this is the newsletter that we're going to send out very soon. We need to add a subject line. Okay, so we say, great, can you write a compelling subject line for this newsletter? Okay, and by a compelling, I'm going to say, give me 5 compelling subject lines for this newsletter. Okay, so we need everything completely AI written, not just the content, but also the subject lines. Okay, great. It's not New Year, but okay. There we go. I like this one. From email marketing to AI tools. Let's put that as one option. And another option. That's fine, but can you make the subject lines reflect the AI content a bit better? All right, 5 more subject lines, please. I need AI probably within the subject line, okay? There we go. AI plus e-commerce. Okay, both of these are actually fine. Nothing too over the top. And we'll see. So this is what the final newsletter looks like that we sent out to our subscribers last week. Okay, so now for the juicy stuff. How did it perform? Right, so before we look into the results, understand this. We use segmentation. If you've read our blog or watched some of our videos, you know that we're big proponents of segmentation. And this essentially means that you're splitting your subscribers into different groupings so that you can send them more personalized emails. For Omnisend's marketing newsletter, for example, we're not sending the same content for our advanced subscribers that we're sending for our beginning subscribers that don't have a lot of knowledge about email marketing. So the first thing we do is split them by customers versus non-customers. They behave differently and we talk to them differently. Secondly is that we split them by marketing knowledge. Our biggest segments are customers that mark themselves as having intermediate e-commerce marketing knowledge or email marketing knowledge. So we're only going to look at that level. So here we got 2 segments, intermediate customers and intermediate non-customers. Now let's see how this AI newsletter performed for those 2 customers. For non-customers, open rates increased by 44%. Awesome, right? Well, click rates decreased by 100%. Yep, we're talking a 0% click rate. They opened it, they just weren't interested enough to click anywhere. Okay, so how did our actual customers perform? By the way, and I hope this doesn't offend anyone, but we care about this segment the most. Mostly because we are 100% certain that these people are e-commerce owners, or they work in or work with e-commerce businesses. And Omnisend is made specifically for e-commerce businesses. So, how did our intermediate customers perform? This one is much better. Open rates went up by 17%. It's not a massive increase, but the open rate for this group was already always pretty good, hovering about 40%. But now the absolute most important thing, click rate, 20% increase. Okay, it's a 19.76% increase if you want to be specific about it, but it's a pretty good increase either way. So what exactly happened here? Let's talk about what these different metrics, open rate and click rate, essentially mean. Open rate means you pretty much like the subject line. You were interested in it and wanted to read the newsletter content. We use the term AI in the subject line, as you saw, so it makes sense that since it's a trendy topic, people are more willing to read about it. Click rate is less straightforward. If you have a great click rate, it means that your content was interesting and the way you wrote about your content was interesting. And here we could be talking about products as well if you're selling something. What you're selling is great as products, and how you're presenting your products in the newsletter is also great. Now, on the other hand, if you have low click rates, it could be that the content or the product isn't interesting. Here, we talked about 3 articles we wrote about AI for e-commerce and email marketing. And it could be that those articles, which were written by humans, could be uninteresting. Or what I think is more likely, that the way that we wrote about it, and by we I mean ChatGPT, is that it was bland and uninteresting. We pushed ChatGPT to be more human-sounding and write in a more interesting way, but it probably didn't do well enough. For non-customers, ChatGPT AI written content failed, but our actual customers, it succeeded. So how could that be if ChatGPT wrote the same for both segments? The answer? Trust. Your current customers are going to trust you more than your non-customers, and our current customers have already interacted heavily with our blog articles. They know what they can expect, quality, and they're willing to explore it, even if the way it's presented in our newsletter isn't as interesting as they've come to expect it. So here's my recommendation. Use ChatGPT to write your subject lines. It performed consistently well in that area since our open rates increased for both segments. However, you should be creating subject lines with ChatGPT only after you've fed it enough information for it to understand what your email or your campaign is about, who your audience is, and what your brand is. Then, to double-check, you should use our subject line tester, which we created to help you understand the potential effectiveness of your subject lines for your e-commerce campaigns. Now, we didn't use it because we wanted everything to be 100% AI written, so we skipped that for now. Secondly, about content. If I were you, I'd be willing to try out using ChatGPT to write your newsletter content if you are selling products. But do this. Number 1, feed it the context about your brand, your audience, and your specific product content of the newsletter to ChatGPT. 2, find examples from bigger brands, inspirational newsletters you want to create, and feed that to ChatGPT as a style to copy. Thirdly, play around with the voice and tone style guide and make sure it sounds as good as you'd like. It may take a bit of work for the first 1 or 2 newsletters, but once you've got the perfect output, then you can use that as a template and just change the details. At that point, it'll take you literally minutes or even seconds to create your newsletter. So that's it. We've got a pretty nice result, and on our side, we'll follow our own advice and use ChatGPT to help come up with interesting subject lines. For the rest, however, we'll probably stick with our human writers. We tend to like them too, so we're probably a bit biased there. So, now to you. Have you ever used ChatGPT to write your emails or newsletters or marketing content? Do you have any tips you're willing to share? Let us know in the comments below. And I'll see you guys next time.